Hello, and thank you for joining me for the second episode of The Corner Office. Today's special guest is Alex.Ajdelsztajn, Director of Property Internet for Marriott International. Today, we're joining us from Gilley's Craft Beer and Fine Wines in Maryland. It's a great little venue that Alex and I know quite well. We've enjoyed a few beverages here. Definitely a good spot. So please sit back, relax, enjoy the show. All right, well, Alex, thank you for joining me here today. Great to have you here, of course, on the Corner Office.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet. Let's start out. Let's ask some of the, as I mentioned before, the more difficult questions. What are you drinking today?
Today I have what I determined to be a very easy drinking scotch. It's Monkey Shoulder. It's one of my favorites when I'm home. Pretty easy, pretty accessible, very light, not very malt or smoky forward like many others are. It's a very easy, kind of typical regular week sort of scotch.
Oh, very nice. Sounds like looks very good.
Wow. What do you have?
I myself am drinking a COVID-19 edition of a Whiskey Daisy. So it's got a little bit of bourbon in it. It's got a little bit of fruit punch instead of lime juice because I'm all out of lime juice and can't get to the store. So it is what it is.
What bourbon do you put in?
I actually used a little bit of Jack Daniels.
Oh, nice.
So which was good. So
people will be happy in Tennessee to hear that you continue to be supporting their business through COVID-19.
This is true. Somebody's got to do it, right?
Right.
So cheers.
Cheers.
So let's get to some of the questions here. First things first, tell me about the best overall experience at a hotel that you had.
For us that work in hospitality, and for me personally who worked in hotels for so many years now, about 19 years, when we talk about best experience, that can mean so many different things, right? A best experience for you in a business trip is completely different than a best experience for you when you're there with your family and just trying to enjoy. I don't know the best, right? I think I have some that jump from a memory perspective and things that were memorable and experiences that were created for me and for those around me. The latest one being, I had an opportunity to take for the first time. I have two kids. My daughter is 4 and my youngest is now 14 months. And it was the first vacation type trip that we did together. Here locally within the United States. So we went to, of course, Disney World and all the parks. So we actually got a chance to stay at the Swan, which is one of our properties down close to Disney World, the Swan and Dolphin. And they took great care of us. They scheduled, a dinner with the characters where we got the chance to meet the characters from close by. And my daughter was all over it. They both enjoyed it so much. My wife and I have so many great memories from that experience, right? Not just because the hotel room was great, there was enough space for all of us, there was a way for us to be together, but also to be private when necessary. But so many ways in which the property was always watching out for us and making sure that we always felt like this would be an experience of our lifetime. So really enjoyed that one.
That's great. The trips that resonate with you are really the ones that, you can build on as a family and kind of reference to forever and ever. I mean, my kids are 13 and almost 16, and we always refer back to our trip to Disneyland and specific trips to different hotels. And it's always great when they tell a story to somebody and then they go, because I'm a Platinum Elite member with Marriott and a couple other brands that I'm high up in, they always go, and we were upgraded and it was the best thing ever. We got the biggest room.
Yeah, and it's so great because it's the business that we do for a living, and it also gives us an opportunity as associates working for the same company to share that passion and to distribute that affection to our own friends, right? So I had a number of our associates who are in our team to actually helping us through the booking and the stay and the post-stay, and it was another amazing example of how hospitable we are, not just with guests, but also with our own teams as they travel around by business or personal.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely great. All right. So you know what comes next? Tell me your best, your best dad joke or type environment that you can.
Yeah. I do dad puns all the time. I'm not necessarily a joke person. I don't crack jokes out of nowhere, but I always find my way.
Wonder who does that.
Adding something here and there. So the one that comes to mind right away is that almost daily, my wife and I, as we're talking through and watching our children grow, she looks at me and she says, I love our daughter, or I love our son. And I always find a way to respond back and say, good, because we're keeping them. So it always cracks a laugh out of her, or makes her look at me and it's like, really, don't you think this is already too old for it? But I always have fun doing that. It becomes something that over time we just laugh about.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
With my family, I was, up until all this crisis happened, of course, I was traveling so much that I was afraid I was going to get divorced because I was always on the road. And now that I'm back, I'm afraid I'm always going to get divorced because I'm here all the time.
Because you're not on the road. Of course, yeah.
It's crazy times.
So what's the verdict there? Do we need to get traveling again, or do you need to stay home more?
Oh, we definitely need to get traveling again. Yeah.
Good. Let's support the industry. We all need it.
Yeah, we definitely do. So speaking of that, and speaking of COVID-19, of course, you're of course with Marriott International. Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing the effects of COVID-19 on hospitality, and kind of what actions has Marriott taken?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Steven. It's very different time for everyone, right? I don't remember having lived through a global crisis to this magnitude, and something that created so much impact to how we live our lives daily, right? Whether it's the fact that you cannot leave the house, maybe you're quarantined, maybe you are in a place where there's a larger direction for people to stay inside. For a variety of reasons, the volume of travel has almost to the point of being eliminated, right? It's been reduced so much. And if you look across hospitality as a segment, right, as a vertical, if you look at airlines or cruise lines or hotels, or even the partners, much like your company, who support those businesses, it completely changes your everyday routine, right? There's hotels that don't have enough people to even remain open, so you close doors. There's so much of components that are not necessarily predictable, right? When you deal with seasonality, when hotels are going to be slow, when hotels are going to be packed, and you prepare for it. And no one, I think, could have foreseen the magnitude of how much this is really impacting on the business. So Marriott is, as a leader that we are in this segment, have taken measures, much like others have done since, to size our spending and our budgets and everything accordingly, right? If you're not welcoming that volume of guests and you're welcoming much less, what exactly do you need to run a company that has that amount of business, right? So there's been a lot of shifts in terms of personnel. You may have seen a very public message by our CEO, Arne Sorensen, published a video about it. That video is the exact same video that got delivered to the associates earlier in that week.
Yep.
So it shows the transparency, it shows the way in which we engage our own people and the public.
Yeah, it was very hard watching that.
One message. Yeah, it was great. So
yeah.
There's a lot of streamlining of resources right now, so that when travel picks up again, we're ready for it, right? We're all looking at how to react to this moment, but also how to prepare to when travel will resume. We all know that travel will resume, right? People will travel again. We just don't know when. So there's a lot of scenarios and a lot of preparation for the different opportunities as to which travel will resume as a whole.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, honestly, there's a stay-at-home order in effect. I mean, through the power of technology, we're both, we're both at home, but I'm coming to you from Gilly's Craft Beer and Wine, a little place that you and I have gone a couple times to have a nice beverage or two. But obviously you're babysitting, so you had to stay at home, couldn't join me at Gillies. I'll have one for you.
Yeah, please.
But other than, spending time, of course, with your kids and doing that, what have you been using to keep busy, during this time? What have you been up to?
Yeah, this is such an amazing time for us to do the things that we've always wished we had time to do, right? Time is now the commodity that suddenly a lot of folks got back, and there's different ways people react to it, and there's no right or wrong way. Circumstantially, for my family, I'm doing a lot of taking care of the kids, right? Of course, daycares are closed, kids are in. So coming up with a structure and a schedule and a way that we can keep them busy and engaged has been priority number one, family first. But aside from that, there's projects that one comes up with over time that you wish you had more time to do, and now we all do, right? So I created for myself a couple different tenets of how I wanted this slow time to play out for me personally and professionally. I wanted to invest in acquire new skills that I didn't have, right? I wanted to be able to go back to when everybody's back in the office to say, I learned something from being outside of the office for this period of time. A second thing that's important to me that I'm planning on continuing during this time is giving back, right? It's volunteering. It's finding what are the right ways in which, barring all of this, considering all of this social distancing that eliminates a little bit of the options that we have, but how is it that I can, in a manner that is safe for myself and safe for my family and safe to others, to continue to give back through crisis. And also the third and just as important piece of this time for me is to be there for others, right? We create all these meaningful connections, these coworkers, these friends, these partners over time that you become accustomed to speaking to on a daily, monthly, weekly basis. And I didn't want to lose touch and maybe have some of those connections dissolve and then have to rework on creating them again when we all are back in the high up of the industry.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to nurture those relationships that we created over time. So those are the three important things for me through COVID-19. And hopefully I'm able to deliver that. Ask again in 90 days. I'll tell you how it went.
It'll be more Lord of the Flies at that point, I think. Yeah. I mean, just speaking about doing something new in that social aspect, like you mentioned, I mean, me, the majority of my activities are social. So this social distancing is rather tough, but you got to reach out in new ways like this, for example, just to kind of keep things going and keep relevant and keep yourself from going a little bit nuts, I think, in today's world. So
it's interesting how by the force of something so frightening and so large scale, we're now adopting technology more than ever, right? Whether you're using video conferencing services like the one we're doing right now, or maybe it's an even larger adoption of headset sort of video calling or options and gaming remotely. There's all of these smaller apps that maybe folks weren't really leveraging so much that are now becoming super prevalent, right? And becoming super well known. Hopefully we'll continue that later, right? The idea that by the force of something bigger than all of us, we started creating different ways to work and achieve commitments and responsibilities and distribute workload and personal or professional. We should all learn from this and adopt all of those things as part of our self moving forward. So that's a very big commitment that everyone should do, right? I mean, do we really need the amount of real estate that we use today to house the number of people that work on any given enterprise? Or can this be something that helps with productivity, helps with quality of life? I think there's a lot to be learned from times like this.
Yeah, and I mean, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, if your team is retooling and adding new skills, when we all come out of this, there should hopefully be new approaches to solving that same issue.
Right.
That we can all attack. So that's great. Good ideas, good recommendations for sure. So speaking on that, other than learning new skills, what is the first thing you're planning on doing once we emerge from this? Like what do you have kind of in your quiver, so to speak, so that you're ready to action and go come day one that we're out of this COVID-19 and we're not necessarily back to regular business, but at least back at it.
Yeah. I've worked for Marriott for most of my life, my professional career so far, right? I've been in Marriott for 19 years. So a lot of the company principles, a lot of the values, a lot of the things that we live in the job every day became things that I live in my personal life as well, right? So one of the main principles of Marriott is that we take care of people. Right? We take care of people, people will take care of guests, guests will return. I think the most important thing for me to continue to live and be a role model in that capacity within the organization is make a promise to myself that as I return, the very first thing I want to do is to call the teams, right? Is to personally reach out, not only to the people who stayed behind and kept the ship running while everyone else was gone, but also to call those who were out and were doing other things over the course of COVID-19. I want to hear from them. I want to share with them that they're important to me and to the organization. I want to learn from the things that they learned from and gather feedback from them if all of this time that they were using for other things gave them a different perspective on how to achieve results, on how to create work-life balance, and anything else that they have to share and teach to myself and others. I want to use my personal and professional network to their service and making sure that that message gets delivered to the most amount of people possible.
Great. Oh, definitely a good idea. Now, just before we move into the future, let's talk a little bit about Lemonade Time. So this is something that you created on LinkedIn, and can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for it and really what you're doing with it?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. Lemonade Time was born out of conversations that happened the day that the industry took its biggest hit, right? We were all talking about, this is a massive change for many of us, right? There's tens of thousands of people in many different industries who are now in some capacity either not working full time or being furloughed or laid off. There's a lot of impact in the travel industry and in many other industries as well. Lemonade Time came from the idea of making lemonade with those lemons, right? When life gives you lemons, you have to realize how is it that you're going to react to it, right? Some folks are glass half full, some folks are glass half empty. And I was trying to bring some cheer and laughter and maybe even some knowledge into the conversation. I've always been an avid reader. I'm always tuned in with news and opportunities. So I wanted to make sure that I took some of the things that I'm experiencing personally and gave others an opportunity to see it too. Some may find interesting, some may not. Some may find that there's an individual resource that could help them through times. A few of the topics that we shared were related to resources for families who are homeschooling right now, or people who wanted free classes from main universities, or if they wanted to learn to play a new instrument, or just infographics in general, talking about COVID-19 and trying to separate what's reality and what's not. And, in this world of fake news, if you find a credible resource that is validated by the different agencies and by the different entities that are directly on the front lines of this problem that you can share with others, then we can sort of try to be all speaking the same language, right? And all be connected with the same data. I'm a big fan of data and analytics, as you know. So being in this position where I could see people seeking for information and I had some information that I was holding on to, I wanted to make sure that it got to the right folks.
Great. No, I think it's a great initiative. I know myself, I'm checking it out every day. I know we've contributed a little bit. Ashley from my office has contributed. So,
yeah, she's great.
Yeah. So always good to see that. So it's good stuff. So last question. Let's post-COVID, post-reemerging, where do you see the future of our industry going? What's kind of in your mind as where things are going to shape after all this?
So many things to talk about, right? I'll caveat this with, this is my own personal view, right? There's this is not anything related to the role that I have in the industry or where I sit. I see a few different things happening post COVID-19. Some of them are things that we can easily just prompt and look at it and see how does that unfold over time. But one of the things is I see a stronger empathy between hospitality companies and guests, right? I see that this is really one of the only times on the recent history where both the hotel and the guests are being impacted the same way, right? It's not, there's something happening in the hotel industry and now I am the guest who's being maybe having to change my plans because of it, or there's something happened with your meeting planner or with your group or with your guests and now the hotel needs to react to. This is happening to everybody, right? Yeah. Everyone is being impacted by COVID-19. So I think there's more leniency and more empathy from one to the other. People understand that they both have families, both sides have people that they need to account for. So there's going to be more, maybe patience is the right word, maybe it's a different word, but it is this idea that people will have a larger understanding moving forward when things maybe don't get delivered the perfect way, or when things maybe have to be tiered, or maybe they have to be tailored to a very specific need, either of the hotel or the guest. Another thing that I see is a smart, what I call smart customization, right? We've always been in this world where you need a guest room needs a bed, a guest room needs a TV, the TV needs channels, there's air conditioning, hot water, all those things that we know we can get everywhere. Yep. But whether by airlines or by hotels, over the course of the recent years, you've been seeing some customization, right? You've been seeing people saying, I'm willing to pay a little bit more to have these things in my room, or a little bit less if I want you to take them away from me. But that didn't inherently change the way in which we design guest rooms and the technology that we put on each individual room. So if you think about every hotel that opens today, for the most case, they all open with a TV. Every hotel that opens today, they all open with a certain channel lineup, right? And I think that now with this idea that we need to be as lean and cost conscious as we can, there will be a new trend of adapting where cost consciousness does not mean sacrificing things on behalf of the guest, right? So if you are a traveling guest who really do not care about a TV, I should have a room for you without a TV, and then I didn't have to buy a TV for that room, right? All of the automation that happens on the back end will be something that companies will invest a lot more to ensure that that happens in a way that is seamless to a guest, right? If Steve Bronken, all he wants to do when he comes to a hotel is stream content from his phone, I want to give you an opportunity to do that and the tools to do that in the most efficient manner. And I want to know that so that I don't pay for channels in your room, right? So there will be a lot of efficiencies created by this idea of maybe I don't need 100% of my rooms with a TV. Maybe I don't need 100% of my rooms with blank, right? You can imagine that there's a lot of ways that you can customize, whether that's mobile key or guest room entertainment systems or a TV panel or maybe a large room. There's a lot that will change. There's also this idea of a community hub, right? We've all been severely impacted because people stopped traveling. And despite many hotel companies talking about being more than just a hotel and maybe being a travel company, the fundamental purpose of a hotel has not strayed away from being guest and beds, right? Maybe there's more meeting rooms in one hotel versus another, but you're still counting on how much occupancy do I have in that hotel in order to see how much profit I can have. So maybe there will be a larger focus on making hotels hubs of their own communities, where you can capture services and capture loyalty from folks who are not necessarily sleeping at your property, and create this whole new operative model where you can still continue to profit even if people are not physically there. You can have whether it's broadcasting or social services, or even in this case, we're seeing a lot of hotels converting into hospitals during this difficult time, there's a lot that could happen so that these buildings can be more part of their own communities and helping others and capitalizing on them, whether by financially or by a different means. But there's a lot of opportunity there for us to do more than heads and beds as an industry. And then the last thing is I see a trend of these shorter, leaner innovation cycles, right? As you think about technology in hospitality, we talk a lot about making a change that a guest would see in terms of implementing a new technology. And a lot of times that requires the purchase of a hardware or a certain software, and it takes a long time for that to be rolled out, right? So if you think from a guest room entertainment perspective, you need to put a set-top box, and all that takes time and money and investment. I see a lot of that being virtualized, a lot of that becoming above property, being software-based. If you think when you need to update a certain app in everybody's phone, you capture millions of downloads in a matter of minutes or seconds.
Yeah.
That needs to be something that owners of businesses that rely on real estate and people that are actually coming to your venue need to also steal a page from that book, right? How is it that we can change the experience that someone would have at a property without having to say, I'm going to do that over the course of 5 years and 600,000 locations? You know what I mean? Like there's got to be ways in which that can happen faster. So I think there'll be a lot of focus on these shorter innovation cycles that are not necessarily relying on just hardware placed in every location.
Okay, very cool. Do you think there's going to be a larger play at all in terms of, folks that become germaphobes after this and want to know, about the cleanliness of their hotel room and try to get access to that data, that information? Do you think that that's going to be a play at all?
I think everything is on the table, right? I mean, who knew that for all of us who have always thought of our hotels as a community gathering at places where people would all come to, would now have to monitor how far apart people are staying, right? Nobody could ever have predicted that social distancing would be a thing. And how is it that we as a business of hospitality can react to social distancing, right? So there's a lot there in terms of how technology can help enabling some of those. I've seen folks coming out with apps that will monitor how far people are apart in the same location and then send a text if people are gathering too much together. There's a lot of innovation happening there. But I do think that from a technology, solely from a technology perspective, there's going to be a lot more of a boom on Internet of Things and sensors. You were talking about being able to detect particles from the air and report whether you see proactively, right? You want to get to things before a guest gets to it. So sensors will see a boom there. And in companies like Safety NetAccess, you will see over time this decision of what is the business function of our company, right? And I think Safety Net has already taken a big leap step in that direction where you don't think that you're managing a network. You're managing this ecosystem of things, and you're working with partners to ensure that you're proactively addressing what are those things that will be connecting to hotels. You're establishing the right relationships, and you're working with partners and competitors and trying to drive the industry forward. But those that don't think of it as something that will definitely change the industry forever and continue to stay in this status quo of my company is an installer, supporter, and manager of access points and switches and networks, will probably need to rethink their focus in the market, because I don't know that there's a lot of space for that to happen, right? There's going to be a seek for those who are now in the bleeding edge of technology and how to bring to hospitality companies all of the information about how those things interoperate in the same ecosystem.
Yep, very true. I mean, if there's one thing history has told us, is that innovation and evolution is necessary in order to keep going. So, I mean, this is a perfect, this isn't a meteor by any means that has hit the world, but it's definitely going to have an impact on us and on the way things are going. And, as a company, we need to keep reinventing ourselves in a sense and keep looking towards the future and trying to hit that nail on the head right with it. So,
yep.
it's a running target, but it's it's something that we're all up for sure. So
Right.
now back to the customized room, as you mentioned, and you said if I need a TV or don't need a TV. Just to be clearly honest, the only thing I need at a hotel is a good bar and a cot, and that's it. I'll be set.
There you go. So you could be paying a lot less for your room. You would still be happy, and owners and franchisees would pay a lot less to make that room available to you and support you during your visit. There's efficiencies for everyone there that could save a financial state for a certain owner, but still deliver an experience that is an A+ experience for you.
Correct. Yep.
Tailoring and customization will drive the game.
I might be staying in the MDF room. You never know.
They're going to be cool.
It would be cool.
Right.
All right. Well, Alex, thank you. This has been an absolute pleasure, of course. Thank you for taking the time from COVID duties, of course, to come and join me here. And cheers. It's been great. Thank you.
You're welcome, Steven. Thank you for your partnership, and my heart goes out to everyone in the industry. I know we all need everybody right now. We all need each other. So if anybody needs anything, just reach out to me.
Correct. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining me for the second episode of The Corner Office. A great big thanks to Alex.Ajdelsztajn for joining me as well. For more information on Alex, please check out his LinkedIn page at www.linkedin.com/in/Alex.Ajdelsztajn. As well, for information on Safety NetAccess, our services, and our products, please visit www.safetynetaccess.com. Thank you very much for watching. Until the next time, be well, be safe, be healthy, and cheers.